video games are for nerds. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about them. That's why you're listening to The Week in Gaming, the only gaming podcast that breaks down the last 7 days and tears games apart from the inside. Ugh. So forget your worries, open your ears, and join Simon Miller and a co-host for the entertainment chatter you need. Also, screw Dark Souls.
Hello and welcome to The Week in Gaming. My name is Simon Miller, and yes, right now the title of The Week in Gaming show is a little bit ridiculous because we haven't been up for a while, but that's basically because when September rolls around in video games, should you not know, if you do work in video games a little bit, or if you work in video games a lot, as soon as September hits, everything just goes crazy. All of a sudden, all the games comes out, all the previews events are here, then games start running scared of other games. Like in October, nothing's going to come out because Red Dead Redemption is terrifying. I mean, there are other things coming out, but I bet you see a few things move. So actually trying to find the time to smash one out became ridiculous. But It just means we've got all the more content to talk about now. And you heard his voices there. My man Sam, as always, is back with me. Dude, how you doing? I know you've been super busy as well.
Yeah, it's been a busy time, obviously. Pretty much after Gamescom, then things started rocking and rolling, Spider-Man and everything. So, yeah, it's been a crazy time, but glad to be here.
It's always good to have you as well. Now, we are going to talk about other stuff. But in the interim period of us being away, obviously, Spider-Man came out. If you listen to The Week in Gaming, Sam was desperate for Spider-Man to come out. He couldn't wait for it, and now all his dreams have come true. I'm also doing a Let's Play / walkthrough on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Miller Report Rules. Cheap plug for you there. And please do come watch if you'd like. A lot of people have said really nice words about it. It's given me a what do you call it? Like a confidence boost. So it's not really your usual Let's Play walkthrough either. So I just warn you about that. Anyway, the point is that we can talk about it now. Before we talk about the actual game itself, leading up to the release, and given everything I was reading, and Sam, let me know if you feel the same. It was being pitched to me, or the feeling I was getting from everybody talking about Spider-Man is that this was a game changer. This was something that was, people are going to talk about for years to come, and it's like a pivotal moment in games. Did you take that, or am I just reading the wrong things?
I'm not sure whether it was marketed as a game changer as such. I think it was just marketed as like. I think that sort of came from everyone else. I don't think it's something.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Sorry, I meant from the press. Sorry, that's what I mean. I started reading reviews and I started reading the editorials that came out in the week to release. And there were loads of people like The Verge and I think Polygon as well, just saying things like, "Oh my gosh, this is I can't believe how good this is. The greatest game ever. Blah blah blah. It's going to change your life." Not Insomniac themselves, but from the gaming press. And that I know you certainly don't, but I don't buy into hype. But I did go, okay. I'm now certainly more interested than I was. So I was taken to that place. Yeah,
it was sort of like, I think we always knew as a Sony exclusive it wouldn't be low rated, but it was almost universally acclaimed. And yeah, like something like 89 on Metacritic or something like that. Crazy.
Do you know what? I haven't looked. You keep talking. I'm going to look right now. Sorry, I just thought. I usually look at that. That's usually my favourite thing to do, and I haven't done that at all. You're right, 87, which is pretty good for
ludicrous.
A console exclusive superhero game. Saying that, let's go Arkham City, because Arkham City, I would say, is probably the most. Well, people argue with that and Asylum. I mean, this makes no difference. It doesn't make a difference who, I certainly don't think what Metacritic says has any bearing on if something's good or bad or not. The Metacritic cert thing is absolutely horrendous. That's good. Fucking hell, 96 for that. But they're still in the same ballpark, right? We're talking about 5 points. So the point is, a lot of people like Spider-Man.
Yeah, and it seems well deserved. I've played to 80% completion, and I don't want to jump the gun if you're gonna just go on to this, but yeah, I mean, I like it a lot.
I'm not 80% completion. I've done about 5 to 6 hours, to be completely actually. But how long is the main story in an open world game? It's just a redundant question, but I've read anywhere from it's 8 hours long to it's 20 hours long.
I think it's 8 to 15. I would say.
Right,
you could really smash it through if you're really good at the combat and you don't get distracted at all. You could really whittle that down.
Yeah,
but obviously a lot of people aren't going to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, nor should they as well. It defeats the point of an open world game. But and this is where we're going to get into it, like, I do think it's very good. And obviously, Insomniac understands Spider-Man really quite well. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying this is the Spider-Man game that Rocksteady would have done, or it was inspired from those, from those titles. I think it wears it on its sleeve proudly, and I got no problem with that whatsoever. I think that's actually a really good idea, because superhero games en masse have been utterly atrocious. So why on earth would you not look at the people that have done it well and go, okay, well, what do we need to bring across to our video game to make sure that it works? This is a wonderful thing as well, because open world games are absolutely oversaturated in 2018. But when it comes to Spider-Man, of course you want an open world New York City, because that is the environment that he lives within. And that's why that open world doesn't bother me at all. I mean, it's incredibly well realised too, and it looks, just the swinging mechanic is almost enough to get the fun that you want out of it. But if you did put him in corridors, or you pigeonholed him, everyone would go, this isn't a Spider-Man game. And that is the thing I liked about it the most, is that it actually feels like we're not doing this to tick some boxes. We're doing it because that's what suits the character. And that's what the Arkham games did so well. The only thing, and I'll let you jump in for both of these points, but the only thing that got me is, I would say, it is a very good video game. If someone put a gun to my head now and said, give it a score, the scores are irrelevant to me. But I'd give it 8 out of 10. But the point is, it's, in terms of its mechanics, again, the swinging is wonderful. Like Insomniac completely knew that without that they had nothing. And they've clearly spent a lot of time, a lot of time and effort on that. But in terms of the open world and the mechanics itself, it's not as... I don't want to say I bought in, because I didn't buy in, but just what I was expecting from reading other people's words. It's not as innovative or unique as maybe a small part of me thought that it would be.
Yeah, I think I've seen people say, like, oh, the open world activities themselves aren't very interesting. And I've seen people also make the jump to be like, why do Ubisoft games get criticised for this, but Spider-Man doesn't? But what I think is the difference is that in a Ubisoft game, say take Far Cry, right? If you're going from one marker to another doing open world activities, you are walking and just doing the regular shooting or whatever. With Spider-Man, you've got that fantastic swinging mechanic and the fantastic combat, which means that even if I was doing basic stuff like following a drone or going around to strongholds, I really enjoyed what I was doing because the mechanics themselves were so fun. And that's where I think the difference is. Sure, the side activities aren't always the most interesting, but I really enjoyed flying around the city doing them because it had that power fantasy. I felt like Spider-Man at all times. Yeah. Like, that's what I really liked. I get when people say they're not very interesting, but I didn't even care because it was just more chance to be Spider-Man, and that was fine for me.
I think that's where the line is, right? I am going to mention Batman a lot. So if you are someone that listens that doesn't want that, just go away. Now, there's no point me pretending otherwise. I'm going to make a lot of comparisons, but that's because I'm a Batman guy, and Spider-Man was never really my superhero as a kid. Yeah, I didn't warm to him. But the reason I bring it up is because I think you've made a really good point. Because Batman did that too. A lot of the crimes that you would just stumble across, you did exactly the same thing you're doing on Spider-Man. It was just, crimes on the streets of Gotham, whereas here it's crimes on the street of New York City. And you had, there were some slight tweaks and changes here to make it feel fresh. But ultimately, you beat up 10 or so bad guys, you got some XP, and then you went on to another marker on your map. But I think the reason, and this ties into the Ubisoft games as well, which I will mention, it ties into the atmosphere and the appeal. Back in the day, when we get superhero games or any kind of licensed games, the problem was they were cheap, they were rushed, and they were crap. And when somebody buys a game that is based on a license, you wanted to represent that thing that you're used to. I mean, that really is more important than the game itself. Is as soon as you sit down to play it and you think to yourself, now I feel like I'm in this world, you've already won. I think South Park, The Stick of Truth, and The Wholesome Butt, whatever the second one was called, they did that better than ever, because the last South Park game we had before that, or one of the worst ones, was the one when you pissed on snowballs on the N64 and went around throwing it to everyone. Sure, it tied into South Park's crass humour, I should say, but you could have copied and pasted anything. And this is why I bring up Batman, because if you had taken everything that Batman did and made it Spider-Man, it wouldn't have worked, and vice versa. And that's why I mean it's like a spiritual inspiration that's gone across to Insomniac. And again, even not as a Spider-Man guy, I can tell that within 5 minutes of any Spider-Man fan picking up this game and swinging through New York City and taking on. I mean, you take a slight spoiler. Yes, I'm not going to do major spoilers, but this happens within the first hour, so I don't consider it a major spoiler. But I've now rambled on long enough that if you did want to turn off, you can. But within the first hour, you're fighting Kingpin, which is going to make you feel excited because it makes you feel like you're part of that little club. Oh, I know who Kingpin is. Because I'll admit, I knew who Kingpin was. I didn't know what his real name was, though. So that's lost on me compared to somebody else that's going to get it straight away. So that's why I think it's actually a hard game to review and critique, because you like Spider-Man a lot and you just love being Spider-Man and walking around the world. Now, I will say so do I, but to play devil's advocate, I can kind of understand somebody else also being like, well, I can't, Spider-Man's fine, but, the repetitive, almost copy and paste repeat thing, I don't really like that, and so on and so forth. And that ties into the Ubisoft games too, because I would actually say the problem with Ubisoft games is they've created their own lore and they've created their own atmosphere, so they can't tap into that because they had to make you understand what it was first. I will say, I cannot believe Spider-Man has towers. What the fuck? Like, who snuck that in there?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not as bad as I think it could be because it's Spider-Man swinging to the top of them. Admittedly, it's a bit brazen. Ubisoft has been criticised for towers for years, and to be like, yeah, we're going to put towers in there. That's like, oh, that's bold. That's bold.
It really was. It surprised me.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a good way to unfold the map, I think. I didn't have any problem with it, but obviously it's like stereotypical open world, please do not do that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. We won't spoil anything here, but how do I phrase this without spoiling anything? But I mean, but now that you're basically finished it, we can say that. Like, how did it live up to? Not only did it live up to your own expectations, but have you enjoyed doing it so much that obviously the last 20% of most open world games, they're not going to be the best, are they? They're not going to be, because they're just not. That's the whole point. That's when you're kind of mopping stuff up. But have you enjoyed it to such a degree, like, you know what? I'm just going to keep, just go back and I'll just slowly sort of, wrap everything up.
Yeah, I mean, when I say 80%, like the story is long gone at this point. So the story's done, and like I've just piled some time into like the open world stuff, obviously the side stuff. And I'm going to go back and do it again. I might not do all the platinum stuff because it might require like loads of nitty gritty challenges or whatever, and I can't really be asked. But the swinging around the city and the combat, those two pillars are so strong for me that I would happily go back and I just like doing strongholds again, and I'd probably replay some of them if I was just not wanting something to play real quick. I'd probably replay some of those strongholds just to get really good combos, because it's just fun to fight as Spider-Man. And when every shot misses because you dodge out of the way, and then you zip someone down, and then you throw another thing at them, it's just awesome. It's a real good power fantasy.
Let's talk about the combat. I like the combat a lot. Again, heavily based on the Arkham verse, which is fine. The Arkham verse probably has my favourite combat in all of games. But for whatever reason, and again, I'm only 5 hours in, so there could be I play for 5 hours more and I get better, and I certainly have improved, but I can't get the same rhythm in the Spider-Man combat that I do in Batman. And I mean this, I'm going to sound like an idiot, but I actually think a small part of me believes, because I've watched so much Batman content, I know that he's a slow-paced fighter, whereas obviously Spider-Man is a lot quicker. I find myself button mashing. Yeah. And I don't actually think the combat is set up for button mashing. I actually think it's meant to be more well realised than that. But I think you're in a better place to make that cool, because you played more of it and you get the character better.
Yeah, I think it's a thing, like you do need to be with those controls for a while. And once you it's like that twitch, once you see that, because there's a point there where your spider sense above your head goes blue, and then like at the right before someone hits you or shoots you, if you get that upgrade, and then if you hit it at that sweet spot, like the active reload sweet spot in Gears of War, like you get that point where you're twitching and you're making sure you're looking for that, because that is the most important thing in combat. And then once you get that rhythm of looking to when you need to dodge, which is exactly the same as the counter button on Arkham, it's that same sort of rhythm. And then, but the thing is, instead of countering, you are dodging out of the way. So you're just hitting, moving, sliding under legs, moving around the battlefield. And I think it's just a case of learning that rhythm and just learning to perfect it and never taking your eye off the ball, because there's always someone shooting at you, or someone shooting a rocket at you, or someone hitting you. And it's just, I think it's just so Moorish, because you could get through a whole fight without being hit if you're really good, and just chasing that is just amazing.
Yeah, I definitely can feel that. I'm just not there yet. I mean, it's just a case of I click with Rocksteady's model more with this one. Again, I really do think it comes down to fandom. That sounds ridiculous, and I'm sure some people aren't finding that at all. But I certainly do find that, and I do like when you get it right. It does have that amazing, satisfying feeling. Like when you zip into someone, flip through their legs, smash them up in the air, and then throw them back to the floor. That really does fit. And if you're jumping off walls, and and some of the boss fights, well, a lot of the boss fights, let you use the swinging mechanic indoors. I will say, I think the game is a lot better outdoors than it is indoors. I know I'm not a massive fan of stealth in any game. That includes Batman. I don't want people to go, "We didn't mention Batman." I include it in that too. And again, you probably need to correct me on this, but I don't know, stealth to me doesn't feel like a very Spider-Man thing to do. But again, he's a spider, I guess, so what the hell do I know? But I don't know, there's a lot of stealth sections in that game, and they're not bad, and actually, I respect Insomniac because I feel like they're giving you a lot of leeway to be seen, but it not register as you being seen, and I'm all for that. Like, it's not Metal Gear Solid, it's not Hitman, it's just a segment in the game to break up the pacing. And I like their checkpointing too. The checkpointing is wonderful. Like if you hit a cutscene in any boss, you're going to go back to the start of that cutscene, and the same with chase sequences, which again something I don't really like in games. I hate it in Grand Theft Auto, but Grand Theft Auto kicks you back to the start of the chase. Spider-Man doesn't do that, and that's good to me. That's buying into the experience rather than it being a challenge. And I think we're long past that in games. But yeah, when every time I went indoors, I was always a bit like, I don't know if I'm liking this as much as the other bits.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't know whether you're talking about, because I think Spider-Man works well with stealth because you could web people to ceiling and stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
But there are certain other characters, because some people class one of the characters as a spoiler. So all I'll say is the other characters that aren't Spider-Man, like those stealth sections aren't great. Regardless of the content of what's in those sections, the fact that it's insta-fail stealth is just a little bit tedious. It's not that hard, and you can get through it. But insta-fail stealth is just... I think Insomniac are better than that, and it's a little bit disappointing to see. But a lot of people are making a bigger fuss of it than it needs to be. These are very short sections and not that difficult. But yeah, insta-fail stealth, no thank you, ever.
No, I hate it. It's just not fun. It's just not. It's just frustrating. What do you think about again, we won't spoil anything, but what do you think about the cast of characters and... how they've worked everybody else in. I mean, these have been announced by Sony, so I think, just to give an example, I don't see these as spoilers, especially now the game's been out a week or so. Obviously, Mary Jane is in it, and Mr. Negative, who I didn't know about. I'm just not a big Spider-Man guy. I mean, worst name ever. Actually done quite well in the game, though. Not as silly as it could have been. The Shocker's in there, Electro, Rhino. All these guys are in. I quite like the Shocker stuff. I won't say more than that, but I feel like the second time you meet Shocker, and he kind of sort of drops some hints towards the main story, and he almost plants that seed. Yeah. I quite like that, because I will admit, I thought for the first couple of hours the story just wasn't doing what I want a story to do. Like I thought, come on, you feel like side missions. But then eventually, obviously, it does, no pun intended, get into its swing. And when it does do that, it does do a good job. And I felt like it started with that, again, I won't say why. The second time when you meet Shocker, he just drops one line in there, Peter Parker quips to it, and it just leaves you with this question mark of, okay, what's going to come next? And I thought that was quite good. Yeah,
I love the cast of characters, to be honest. I think certain characters aren't particularly used well, because I think this is a spoiler. But Mary Jane is really good. I think her sections add a lot to the story as well, because there's stuff that Spider-Man can't go into because he can't kick off. He can't. It has to be Mary Jane going in there and offering a different view of events. Yeah, and I think that's really good. And to be honest, it's not like, oh, I'm the damsel in distress, save me. She's like, listen, Peter, get your shit together.
Exactly, yeah. Stop fucking around, yeah.
Yeah, and to see an actual fleshed out female character is really nice as well. And the villains, it's really hard with superhero games to get villains in, because I think with Arkham Asylum they got round it because they were all in the prison, so you just had to face them anyway. Whereas Insomniac had placed these guys on the plot to make sure it wasn't overburdened, and for it to make sense that there were so many villains in one plot. I think they've done a really good job with that, to let each of them have their identity without just being like, oh, here's another villain, here's another villain, because they've actually staggered it really nicely. And I think they've done a really good job of making all the characters relevant and giving them their own meaningful spot in the story.
Yeah, I know, I agree with that. It is a hard thing to do, because you have to get people's favourites in there. You just do, whether people like that or not. It's true. And, you don't want it to feel like a sort of, a row of dominoes. You're like, oh, that one's down. Now this one's down. You wanted to tie in. And again, I haven't finished it yet, but I think I already know where it's going. So I think they've done a good job with that as well. And it's how they sort of work. I mean, he's not a peripheral character, but I mean, I wouldn't say more than this, but it's no surprise that Norman Osborn is it? I mean, you've got to be crazy to assume that he's not. But it's the way they work them in early on, and then they build on them, as the game goes. The pacing of that is really good. Like it really, really is. It drops you a seed and then lets you wonder about it for a while. Like I said, there's one big section with Dr. Octavius. Yeah. And it doesn't go, again, this is what I was saying, but it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go at first. And it plays off the comics a lot too, which, again, it doesn't matter if you haven't read them, but if you have read them, you feel like, oh, they're talking to me and only me, even though they're talking to millions of people, because Spider-Man is the UK's fastest selling game so far this year. And again, it's only on one console. Yeah. So that is absolutely preposterous. They're saying that I think that before this it was God of War anyway. So it's like the PlayStation 4 continues to absolutely smash it. But as a comparison, it sold more than Far Cry 5 in terms of the same time. And that was on 2 consoles. So, there you go.
And it was what I really loved about, for me, I think it was really bold of Insomniac to get existing characters and position them in original ways. Like Spider-Man is 23 here. He's not just like it's not an origin story. He's a scientist, not a reporter. J. Jonah Jameson is a radio host, not the owner of the Daily View.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
it's really good how they've just taken this, worked into their own universe, but without destroying the canon entirely. And it's bold, but it works really well because it makes it separate from other Spider-Man sort of stories that have come before it.
It's a very good point. I didn't think about that, and I didn't like the Jameson radio station at first because I didn't like his voice. To me, I wanted hey, Spider-Man.
Yeah, get pictures of Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah, but that radio station does grow on you. It's very Grand Theft Auto. It's very good. It's very well done. It's very funny as well. But yeah, no, I do agree with you in that sense. So your overall, I mean, clearly, it's lived up to your expectations then.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say I didn't really know what to expect. I knew it was going to be fun. You know what I mean? I knew it was going to be at least fun, but it was actually much more meaningful than I thought it would be. Obviously, it's not like the best story in the world. It's very superhero. It's very Spider-Man anyway. But yeah, they've done a really good job at making it just more than just a fun Spider-Man game, which I think a lot of people may have been expecting. But yeah, hats off to Insomniac. They really know what they're doing.
What do you think about Peter Parker / Spider-Man's portrayal? Because I thought they handled Peter Parker very well. Despite the fact he looks like Macaulay Culkin. He really does look like Macaulay Culkin. That aside, yeah, I think he's... I don't know, I think he's a really good character. I mean, I think it's quite influenced by the one in the Marvel movies at the moment, but that's fine. Everyone likes him, so it's not a problem.
Yeah, no, I think he was really good. It's nice to have Peter Parker have a more meaningful role, rather than just be like, oh, I'm Peter Parker. Oh, no, I'm Spider-Man now. Okay, bye. Like, he actually has a meaningful role aside from just being, the normal Spider-Man, which is really nice to see.
The only thing I assume you did. Again, I'm not saying that more or less doesn't happen. I'm just referring to a specific side quest. The Harry Osborn health mobiles, whatever the hell you want to call them. I thought all those missions were bizarre. I thought they were all really weird, like flying through clouds. That wound me up a little bit. I found that a bit frustrating.
Yeah, it's weird. Just like, I don't know why they thought, oh, we have research stations, but you have to swing through clouds and follow drones, and it's like, right, okay. And Harry Osborn's calling you from Europe. Like,
I know.
Right?
What? I mean, really, really weird. Really, really weird stuff. But look, I mean, it's an open world game, right? You're not going to love every single side mission. You just can't. It's not possible. But I think the main game and most of what it's there, I think there is going to be a sliding scale. I think if you like Spider-Man, you're really going to like it. And if you don't, but you just want an enjoyable, fun game, I think Spider-Man ticks that box. I do think it's, every time I sat down to play it, I was excited to play it just because I knew the swinging mechanic was going to be fun. And also, unlike a lot of open world games, you can just play it for 20 minutes. Do a couple of missions and then put it down again. You don't have to overly invest in it, and that to me is really important, especially as the world life gets crazier and crazier, and more games and games come out. And And again, I even get through it in 8 to 10 hours. Perfect. And if you want to do more, perfect. That to me is a very good balance. And honestly, given this isn't me shitting over Insomniac games, but personally, I have never really been a big Insomniac games fan. And I don't, much like Rocksteady sort of took on Batman for, what was it, 7 years or whatever it was. I don't see why Insomniac can't do that too, because I mean, Ratchet and Clank doesn't necessarily feel very relevant to me in 2018. I think the Resistant games have done all they can do. And other than that, that's kind of what they were known for, apart from Spyro the Dragon back in 98, wherever it was. So
the beautiful thing for them, sorry to interrupt, but the beautiful thing for them is just like Spider-Man is just packed full of stuff they could use. So this is reviewed well, obviously. This is sold well, obviously. So they could just literally just build upon that, just create their own story that they know they could already do, and then just pile in more villains, more stuff from the comics, put their own spin on it. And I could imagine it would sell just as well. So there's every reason for them to make a sequel. I hope they do.
Yeah, but and also it could come out sooner. A lot of people go, oh, they wouldn't do that. It wouldn't come out for years. Not true. I understand games are completely different now. It was a decade ago, if you can believe, when Arkham Asylum came out. It was 2009. But, City did come out 2 years after Arkham Asylum. It was I think it was 2 years and 2 months or something like that. And I'll look it up. Arkham Knight came out 3 years later, which is, 4, sorry. 12, 30, so 4 years later. And that just, there's nothing to say that come 2020 or around then we can't get another announcement for a Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2, and Insomniac can be the Spider-Man guys for a while. I think that's smart. I think it could even be a launch title for something like the PlayStation 5. I don't know. I don't understand how it's going to stay, Sony exclusive. I mean, it is, but I can't believe that's going to be a thing. It just seems mental to me. But it really is a coup for Sony, because I think it will do incredibly well, and I don't think it will lose any goodwill when a sequel comes around, because again, if you don't like it, I think that's more personal taste as opposed to it being a bad game.
Yeah, and it would be really nice, say if you got multiple, say you got more power in the console, you could expand the districts as well, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx. You could do that as well, which would be really exciting, because obviously you would just copy and paste the same place.
Yeah, of course.
So there's a lot of potential there for a sequel. I think that would be really good.
Can you get to the Statue of Liberty as well? I tried and didn't know how the hell you did it.
I don't think so, because you can't really get that far without walking or swinging, and there's a big body of water. So I assume they've thought about that.
That's the only weird thing as well. I mean, it makes sense, but obviously you don't die if you fall in water, because this isn't 1998 anymore. But you can't really do anything. You kind of just float around for a while. You have to find something to swing off. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, but I think it's just because they couldn't do anything but Manhattan, so they'd use the water to stop you.
It's true, but I'm glad you don't die. I mean, no one would ever dare do that now, but it did used to be a thing in games. Fall in the water, oh, you're dead, and you're like, really? That doesn't happen to me in real life. That
reminds me of that bit in, did you ever play the Spider-Man PS1 game?
No, I didn't.
Oh, because they couldn't make the whole of New York, because obviously it was on the PS1. They made the story so Octavius had flooded the city with poisonous mist. Jesus. So the levels were just a few rooftops, because the whole of the city was in mist.
It's clever.
That is well played.
Yeah,
that is
clever.
Well played.
At least try and come up with reasons for technical limitations.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it is a very good game. I think a lot of people are happy with it. I think the photo mode, obviously, people are loving that. Not something that I'll ever play around with. I'm never interested in photo modes, but it's hard to criticize it when you see Twitter timelines lighting up with such glee from fans all over the world. But yes, so Spider-Man is a very good game. I know for a lot of people, it's their game of the year. Not mine, but it was never going to be. You have to be a hardcore Spider-Man fan first and foremost. Hence why Arkham Knight, I should say, I gave a 10 out of 10 to. Don't regret it to this day. A lot of people still send me messages when they find that going, you crazy. But it was a Batman simulator, and that's all I ever wanted. And I think you can copy and paste all those emotions and put them here, and it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
So I get it. We are going to talk about some other games just quickly, and we'll start with the most up-to-date ones, and we'll go backwards. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 beta is out.
Yep.
Neither of us have played it, but I wanted to mention it because I've got a code. I do have a beta code, which I'm going to try and get on the next couple of days, so I'll make sure I have some thoughts for it this next week. But what I'm hearing is the Battle Royale mode, which is called, I've forgotten, what the hell is
Blackout.
Thank you very much, Blackout. A lot of people are saying it's actually quite good. I mean, it's just, what you'd expect, but without crazy jumping and crazy building, which is what Fortnite is all about. Apparently there's still some kinks in the system. But people are saying they've actually done a pretty decent job with it. And I've always said, I like the idea of a Battle Royale game. I just need one that speaks to me. I'm not necessarily sure that Call of Duty is going to be that, because trying to kill anyone in that game is probably harder than Fortnite, given how good people are. However, this is probably the year I'll dip my toe back into Call of Duty, because I want to see what a AAA developer did with that idea.
Yeah, it sounds very good, but obviously Call of Duty know they're shooting, so I'm not surprised that they just put a battle royale formula on that, and it's good. I've not played it, but I am excited to play it.
Yeah, no, I genuinely am. Like, I haven't played Call of Duty in years because I get killed too much and it pisses me off. But after hearing people that I trust say positive things about it, and the fact that, again, I think that mode is good. I want more people to do this. If you fuck it up, well, who cares? At least you tried. So I'm absolutely going back to Call of Duty this year. How long I last, I don't know. But I'll wait and see. I'm glad they've done it, and I actually think it's going to give Black Ops 4 more of an interesting spin than maybe we would have had otherwise. Otherwise, unless you're super into Call of Duty, why else are you going to go back these days? I think there's a shelf life for all of those games, and we're going through generational shifts all the time. And it's one every single year. So I think you've got to, look at what the industry's doing and try and bring it into the fold. Otherwise, what the hell is the point?
Yeah, and as much as people cried about the single player going, like, more people like the Battle Royale idea than they did the single player, I guarantee you.
And I bet you Activision had stats that said no one plays a single player. So they were like, what a waste of our life. I mean, it's true. Who's moaning about it now? You had that initial sort of outcry when it happened, but I haven't had anything else since then.
No.
So yeah, I don't think anybody cares. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is also out in 2 days as we record this. Yes. It's out this Friday. I haven't played very much. I'm talking 40 minutes max. But the way
first impressions?
Well, my first impressions, it's weird. It's difficult to me because I don't care about spoilers, and I'm always intrigued to see other people's opinions, even though I don't let them, persuade my own. My favourite thing to do, I know I'm part of the problem, but is using sites like Metacritic or going on VG247's every score roundup, because I don't know. I just like to see, a montage or a collection of numbers to see, okay, does everyone feel the same way about this? Are we scoring all over the place? I think it might find the experience more interesting, especially after you yourself have played it and you can see kind of what side of the fence you fall down on. And it's weird because I think within the first let's say I've done an hour, which is probably being a bit generous, but we'll say that. I can already tell it's exactly like Tomb Raider, the reboot in 2013, and it's exactly like Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I'm completely cool with that. Those two games to me were the quintessential 8 out of 10s. And I never meant that in a negative way. It knows exactly what it wants to do. It wants to be an action-adventure game that ticks loads of boxes, is never too unique, never too original, but just does everything it can to make sure you have a good experience over 8 to 10 hours, maybe 12 max. And you can already tell that's what they've done here. And yet I see a lot of people shitting on it because of that. And I'm like, what did you expect? It is only the third one, in a reboot of an entire franchise. I don't think we're going to get to that point of, we got to start again. I quite like it. I think it's the best run of Tomb Raider games ever. I still stand by the fact I think the original series, or whatever you want to call it, was vastly overrated. I understand that it did stuff with 3D space that in the 90s was incredible. And obviously Lara Croft was Lara Croft. But I much prefer what they're doing now. I think it kind of both takes inspiration and sets its own path compared to Uncharted, meaning you can play both and get a similar experience, but not really at the same time. And already I just want to sit there, put it on easy, if I'm completely honest, and just go through another 10 hours with Tomb Raider. And I think I'll enjoy myself. But for some reason, that's now become a critical point for some, which I don't really understand.
I would counter that.
No, do it. Please do. Please do.
By saying that I think Tomb Raider went from Tomb Raider to Rise of the Tomb Raider, and it did a lot with that. It opened the world up, and there was a lot more to do, and I think it was a stronger game, Rise, because of that. And for Eidos Montreal and Square Enix, they marketed Shadow of the Tomb Raider as become the Tomb Raider. You're finally ending this journey by becoming the Tomb Raider you're meant to be, like this epic finale. I think what a lot of people are saying, it's just like the stakes are raised, but they're not actually met. It's just more of Rise. So you're meant to have this epic finale, and then instead you're just getting more of the same. So if it had just been like, oh, this time Lara's in Peru, I would have been like much happier with that than sort of like, this is the most epic final story, and it's just sort of like, okay, this is just more Tomb Raider. Because it is good. It's good as more Tomb Raider. But like you say, more Tomb Raider is not becoming the Tomb Raider.
No, and this is why I'm always happy that I stay away from marketing nowadays, because I'd missed all of that. And I'm sure, again,
really?
that would have skewed my opinion, I'm sure. But I don't watch trailers anymore. I tried to avoid press releases. I just like approaching games almost naked these days. Like
as they come. You know?
Yeah, and it was cool because I didn't even know that in Shadow of the Tomb Raider you can set the difficulty for each individual sort of bit. And I thought that was cool. So if you want a harder challenge but easier puzzles, you can. And I was like, that's what I want. I want choice. If I want to, flipping Nintendo my way through a video game, you should let me. Stop arguing. So yeah, I'll talk. So go on.
What's really annoying about the exploration, if you set it on easy though and you still can't find out what you're doing, every time you activate survival instinct, Lara says the same thing over and over and over, and it's the most annoying thing.
No, that is true. That most definitely is true. But
that's not a criticism. It's the funniest side.
No. But it's video game criticism when you're like, really, we couldn't have done something with this.
Yeah.
But I do like it. I've done a joke review on my YouTube channel just to wind people up. I implore you to go watch that as well. Just go check out my YouTube channel /The Middle Report Rules. There's a lot of dumb stuff on there, but I enjoy it. But I'll do a proper review maybe next week once I've actually been able to sit down and play it more. And hopefully you guys will have got it too, and we can chat about that. Sam, what else have you been playing? I've got a couple more things I want to talk about, but they're stupid mobile games, so I'll get to that later.
Doom 2016.
Of course you've been playing, and this is your first. No, I can't remember now. I've got confused.
It is the first four.
It is, isn't it? Yes, right. Because I still think it's brilliant. Like Doom Eternal, or whatever the next one's called. It went right to the top of my most wanted list as soon as they announced it. Because, ironically, given what we were just talking about, I hope they just make the same game again. That's all. Yeah. That's all I desperately want.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like, it's so smooth. That's the thing I should say most about it. Because obviously it's like fast as hell, and everything is just like, it's just like fluid, just going from bam, 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 punch to punch, like. And it's so good that the action never really stops. There was one bit where I was in like literally a minute of dialogue, and I was like, let's go, because it just never really stops you up until that point.
Yeah, it's true.
And yeah, it's really good. I've heard some people in the past criticize because the glory kills, they're pretty much the same animations again and again.
That's why I love it though, because it's like it becomes like a rhythm action game. Oh,
yeah,
I love it so much.
That's exactly what I think. And it's not like if you were in the same animation for 5 seconds at a time, it would be annoying. But you literally go in there ripping a jaw off, then you're back to shooting other dudes. Like it's a fantastic, like just like Spider-Man. It's a power fantasy, blood everywhere. Demons just falling at your feet. It's so good. And I don't know what the story's about. I don't give a toss, frankly. I'm just loving just shooting the shit out of everything that moves. And that's basically what the game's objective is. Shoot everything until you can progress.
Have you got to the point where in the middle of the cutscene and Doom Guy just stops it?
Yeah.
The greatest thing is like, who gives a shit? It's so good. I love that video game. I think it's one of my favorite video games ever.
Yeah, there's one bit where you're just like, oh yeah, we really need that precious, this like monitor or this technology or something, and then your guy just smashes the shit out of it. It's just like,
don't do that. Doom. I love it because that's what makes it feel different, and that's why I don't really care that the rest of the game falls into a same pattern, because it's true to itself, as stupid as that sounds.
Yeah, and it's like it's weird because like usually that sort of just focusing on gameplay, not a lot of story. It's all be reserved for like indie games, something like that. But like this is like going back to what Doom used to be, and is saying like we're just going to go back to the core. We're getting rid of everything that Doom 3 did in terms of overly boring story, and we're just going to make it about blood, shooting, and violence. And it's so good because of that.
It really is. And I think because you could almost imagine those 3 words being on a whiteboard somewhere in games, just like, This is what it must be. And because they stuck to that mantra throughout, it never lets up. It goes on for what, 12 hours? I can't even remember now. But even by the 12th hour, everything is still so much fun to kill. The glory kills are not boring in any sense of the imagination. It continues to raise its game throughout. It is a wonderful video game. It really, 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 really is. To the point when I reviewed it, I refused to give it to a score because I felt scores were irrelevant when it came to this. Because it's just fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I really like it. Has it got you in the, Doom Eternal comes out next year or whatever. Are you now in that bracket? We're like, absolutely. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure because, to be honest, it's one of those ones that like I will really enjoy that when I play it. So I'm not sure I'll be there at the front of the queue paying 40 quid for Doom Eternal. But I will be definitely interested in Doom Eternal, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to. Have you played anything else, Sam? Anything else on your radar?
Anything else? Gears of War 4's multiplayer I've been playing a lot of.
It's good, isn't it? Underrated, I would say.
Very, very good.
Much better than
the
single
last
player.
time I played was Gears 3, and that was 10 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. And then, getting back into it, it's just the same old snug pair of shoes.
It really is.
It's just so good. I remember the Nasher being great at hip firing, and now it's still so good at hip firing. And it's just solid, like the quintessential cover shooter, and it's so addictive. So,
what's the community like now? Is there still loads of people playing it? I mean, I played it a lot when it first came out, but I've kind of fallen off the radar with that too.
I mean, we didn't struggle to find a match, so it seems fine. I've only played a little bit of it, but it's really good so far.
It's much better than single player. Have you played any of the single player? I can't remember if we had this conversation before.
Gears 4, I've played probably the first hour, but it was sort of on my own, and I feel like I'd rather play it co-op, so I'll play it co-op at some point.
It's not good. No, that's not fair.
Nobody says it's like amazing. Everyone's like, it's Gears of War.
Yeah, it's fine. I think the problem is it is just Gears of War, which is awesome, but it's with 4 dudes you don't care about, and that's a real issue.
Yeah, that's why young, boring Marcus.
Yeah, that's why I'm worried about Gears 5 as well. Like they're changing it again, and I'm like, but I've got nothing to invest into. I really sometimes wonder if Gears doesn't need to go away for a little while. But again, like you say, the multiplayer is the real joy. The multiplayer is really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so intense and it's just so tight. Like it's balanced, it's tight. It's like it's so tweaked to perfection.
No, it is, and I don't know. I'll see what they do. I've met Rod Ferguson a lot of times. He really does get not only that game, but what he wants to, what he wants to do. He very much. This sounds cheesy as shit, but it's true. He very much feels like he doesn't ever want to be seen as this corporate video game developer. He wants to make games that fans actually enjoy, while obviously balancing that against Microsoft.
Microsoft.
Yeah, which is never going to be easy. And hell, right now they need Halo and Gears of War more than ever. I don't, as a quick tangent, I can't remember what the news story was, but it's essentially Microsoft saying that they've got plenty throughout the winter time to support the Xbox One, and it doesn't matter that Crackdown 3 has been delayed. But even then, I don't think Crackdown 3 is that big a deal to me personally. And what do they have? They got Forza Horizon 4. And then my brain goes numb. I don't know what else they have. What else do they have?
That's a good question.
But I remember in the list, they said stuff, we've got Red Dead Redemption 2 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Black Ops 4. It's like, but Sony has that as well. And Sony can easily trump you. And I don't care. I want everyone to do well. I want Nintendo to do well. I want Microsoft to do well. So I want everyone to make loads of money and just make better games. But when you have Spider-Man on your machine, and across the pond, you've got Xbox who's released nothing, Sea of Thieves, which came out in the summer and has basically fallen off the radar entirely. I think you do need to look at yourselves to go, we need to balance this a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still thinking of Xbox exclusives, but yeah, I think Xbox Game Pass has made things better.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That is really wonderful, that thing. It's really, really good and such good value for money.
Yeah, like I've downloaded Doom, Halo Master Chief Collection, Halo 5, Gears, and Sea of Thieves, and that's just the top 5 that I've not even really dipped my toes into. And there's so many other games. Like the thing is, though, you're really catching up on a backlog. That's the only thing. But that's good. But you need more new stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look. Video games aren't complicated anymore. Like much like the game controller, which people kept trying to innovate and then realized we'd already got it right. Sometimes you just need big games that people want to play. And yeah, Red Dead Redemption and all those will see you through. But I'd imagine more people are playing their PlayStation 4s at the moment.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Anything else, Sam, or is that your list of games?
That is my played. Right. What about you?
Well, I've been playing 2 shitty mobile games because, as people know, I've injured my shoulder, so I can't drive. So I have to get public transport everywhere at the moment, which just sucks. So I was like, okay, well, I can start playing mobile games again. And the 2 that I stumbled across, well, one I knew about, which is Super Stickman Golf 3. Now, I used to play Super Stickman Golf like 5-6 years ago, and when I found out it was the third one, it's exactly the same game, and I don't even need to tell you what it is. It's Stickman Golf. But Stickman Golf is brilliant. Like, I shit you not. Like, for a game that is free and is so light on microtransactions, which are there, but obviously the more you get in, the harder it gets, and it starts to suggest you should buy them. I must have played that game for 10 plus hours now for nothing. For £0, and I get so much enjoyment out of it because it's just such a quick, easy to play, fun way to pass the time as I'm making my commute. Like, it reminds me of actually how good mobile games can be when they are, pitched in the right direction. The problem is a lot of them aren't, and microtransactions do take over. But when that doesn't happen, genuinely excellent.
Yeah, it's just the simplicity as well. You just lose, like, you're not really doing anything complicated, and you can just lose hours on that, just on the train or whatever.
Yeah, and it works. And because the other one I've been playing is Score Hero, which is one of these football games where you kind of, draw lines and things happen. And that one is more controversial to me because the game itself is really good. Like, given that you are controlling, pre-programmed players just to run in lines, it actually makes it feel like you're playing a game of football. But the problem is, you have this rewind. You have hearts, and when you run out of hearts, you have to wait 50 minutes or whatever before you can do it again. That's fine. The problem is, as the more you get into the game, you've got a rewind feature, and the rewind feature is done using bucks. And, every time you do something right, you get a couple of bucks here and there. But you run out of them very quickly. And the more you get into the game, at first, you'll be playing matches and all you got to do is score a goal. But then when you're like 2 hours in, you've got to score 4 goals. And then if you don't, if you screw up on the third goal and you've run out of rewind bucks, you've got to go back to the first goal. Do you know what I mean? And it's so... And I understand. They want to... I've got a point I'm going to make in a minute. But it's so pushing you to buy... but there's nothing wrong with that because it's free. But my point is, I'd much rather have just paid a tenner for that game and never have had to, just enjoyed it for what it was than having to suffer through playing the same scenarios over and over again just because I know that if I buy $10 for £2, that those bucks can have vanished in 30 seconds if I keep making mistakes. And I get it, that's how they make their money. I'm not surprised by this. I understand how microtransactions and in-app purchases work. Yeah. But I really would be more inclined to spend maybe even £20 on a game like this if I could play a little demo or something. Much like Nintendo do, I guess, free to start, and then just plonk down a one set of money and then forget about it, as opposed to, continually feed the engine. And given how I play games, it's put me off, and I've started to notice I'm playing it less and less, whereas Super Stickman Golf keeps smashing it.
Yeah, it's just annoying when you kind of keep getting asked for money rather than paying the one-off price. So, yeah, I sympathise with you. I don't have to play a lot of mobile games.
No, I don't.
That's because sometimes, like, when you find a good one, it's just like, oh, you could try again in one day or you could pay. I was like, oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, I just give it, or you can give us 20 quid right now and we'll shake hands and walk away. Honestly, the other day I was stuck on a train, and if this Score Hero game had done that, I would have given them 20 quid and that would be that. Instead, they're not going to get any money for me. Look, don't get me wrong, I'm one person. I'm sure the greater general public are giving them millions upon millions and I'm the fool. But that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's just like, you speak with your wallet though, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a shame, but it's a nice sort of, juxtaposition between two mobile games. But yeah, Super Stickman Golf is genuinely a great way to pass time if you're on a train, bus, or passenger in a car. In terms of other things that are going to come up, if you are listening to this the day we go live, which is late on a Wednesday evening, there is a Nintendo Direct tomorrow. Sam, do you know what's happening in this Nintendo Direct? I just saw it got announced. I have no idea what it's based on or anything like that.
No, I've only just heard it got announced as well, so no idea. Skate 4, who knows?
It's going to be Skate 4. I'm having a quick look now. Apparently it's rescheduled. Apparently it was meant to go up. Expect the usual news on Nintendo 3DS and Switch games, specifically those due out later this year. I don't know what they've got, Nintendo later this year. But
Mario Party, innit?
Yes, that is true. And apparently their online paid service starts next week. Remember that? They announced the Switch and everyone forgot about?
I think they're giving more details about that tomorrow. That's what I've heard.
It's probably going to be that. Free for the first week, and then it's £3.49 a month, $6.99 for 3 months, or £18 a year. I don't think you need... If there's any backlash about that, I'm going to kick off £18 a year. There's nothing compared to everyone. I mean, don't get me wrong. Nintendo's isn't as good as maybe Xbox Live and PS Plus, but still...
Yeah, but PlayStation is 50.
Exactly what I mean.
Even if it's half as good, you're still getting a buck.
And you get a free NES virtual game, and a new smartphone app, and the ability to save data to the cloud. Now, that last one is actually really good, because I run out of my space on my Switch all the time. If it works, oh my gosh, sometimes when Nintendo first do things, it's like, fucking hell. This is an abomination. But yeah, apparently there's going to be a new Yoshi game, all the details about saving to the cloud, an Ubisoft party game, a reveal of Civilization 6, okay, and a mobile edition of Final Fantasy 15. Well, this one is not for me. I don't give a shit about any of that apart from cloud saving. That would actually be interesting because I forget to buy memory cards because I am a moron. And I think that's everything. I don't think anything else has gone on in games. I think we've kind of smashed it. We've covered it all.
Yeah, I think that's it. Spider-Man's been the main one.
Spider-Man has been the main. What else is coming out? I meant to look this up, and I've closed my my tab that I had open like I'm an idiot because I wanted to. There it is. I wanted because Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they have started to ask who would like a review code. I put myself on that list because for the first time in about 10 years, 7 years, I'm going to play this year's Assassin's Creed to see if I actually think that it's changed.
But are you interested in it though?
No, well, I'm interested in the setting. I always like the setting, but I don't care about anything else of that stupid video game. But look, it's got a chance to change me around. So that's coming out in October. NBA 2K19 came out the other day. I always like those games, though I admit I don't know much about this one. We've got FIFA 19 at the end of the month, Forza Horizon 4 at the start of next month. And then Assassin's Creed pops its head before, Call of Duty sneaks in. Then obviously Red Dead comes at the end of October. And then everything goes quiet for a very long time.
Except for Spyro.
And Hitman 2. What is Hitman 2
Hitman 2.
doing?
How can we forget about Hitman 2?
Because it's coming out a week after flipping Red Dead Redemption. What are you doing, true. Hitman 2? When is Spyro coming out now? Like halfway through the November, right?
I can't even remember.
Thing is, it's coming. I'm pretty sure it comes out the same day as Fallout 76. If it was any other game, I'd be like, what are they doing? But I'm not worried at all. Like, look what Crash Bandicoot did. I think Spyro's going to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Fallout 76 is one I keep forgetting about, which is a bit worrying in my brain.
No, I'm not interested. I'm done with Fallout, and I don't like MMOs. So it's not for me to begin with. But yeah, definitely not for me. Definitely not for me. And that's kind of it. Obviously, Dark Souls Remastered comes out in October. I guess that's big to some people. Blops.
Switch, yeah.
Blops we talk about. W2K19, Super Mario Party. And I tell you, man, Red Dead Redemption has made a lot of people run away. There's not as many big games as I was expecting. I mean, there are, but not as many as I was expecting. And Darksiders 3 on November 27th. I don't know, man. That seems bizarre to me. But hey, look, we'll see. We'll wait and see what happens. And that's it. That is the week in gaming, or at least a few weeks in gaming. As always, all my podcasts and all my content is supported thanks to patreon.com/SimonMeter316. If you go throw even $1 in there, it helps me no end. It really does, especially at the moment. It's allowing me to do this stuff. Otherwise, with my gammy shoulder, I've had to turn down work and I'd be in trouble. The Patreon helps with that, so I want to thank everyone who does help me with that. Again, youtube.com/SimonMeter rules. On Twitter, Instagram @SimonMeter316. If you're listening on iTunes, give us 5 stars, give us a review. And Sam, we can come back on Monday, right?
Yes.
The 17th. Yes. Is that good? I don't know. Yep. Yeah, right. So we will. We'll be back on Monday. So you kind of get 2 podcasts in less than a week, but also we haven't had one for a couple of weeks. So it just goes to show life is balance and we always come down somewhere in the middle. Have you got any fun plans, Sam, over the next week? Any cool video game stuff? Or just continue to smash Spider-Man?
I'm going to the V&A because they have a exhibition, the V&A in London, on video games.
Do they really? What's the sort of long and short of it? I didn't know that.
I think it's design and something like that. So very, very generalist sort of, the game design. I'll tell you all about it on Monday.
No,
I can't remember right now.
I think that's interesting. I didn't know that. I remember when the Science Museum had their video game exhibition, and it was wonderful. It was genuinely badass. I was so impressed by that. And they had, this is how old it was. They had Guitar Hero on their massive IMAX screen. I mean, that was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. That was. Video games design, play, and disrupt. Explore the design and culture of contemporary video games, and hilariously, their backdrop images of No Man's Sky. It looks good, man. It actually looks really good. I think that's going to be really interesting. Well,
I'll tell you all about that next
Monday. Look forward to hearing about it, man. I may try and go down there as well. As always, thank you very much for listening. And like we said, we're back on Monday to talk about not only video game exhibitions, probably a bit more Spider-Man, a lot of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and whatever else comes across our way. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again soon.